this week's episode. I finally got Nick on the show. We have done this since the very beginning. It would never worked, but I've got him back. So, how are you both doing?
I'm great. Welcome.
Yeah, doing awesome.
Welcome to our
Guys,
world.
Yeah, I feel very welcome. Anas, obviously you and I have great rapport built, but Jack, this is my first time doing a show with you. I've been listening to you guys most every episode. I listen to about 90% of them, and I feel like I know you at this point. So I'm excited to dive into some news updates, theories, whatever you guys got. There's a lot to talk about this week, so I'm really excited. Thank you for having me, both of you guys. Seriously.
Well,
Welcome,
I hope.
man.
I'm glad you're with. Love to open things up to more people, and where do you start? I'll let
Sure.
Anas, where do you want to go?
I think first of all, I've got to say that this is not our first. We did a live stream with Jack a couple of years back,
I
but
remember.
for some reason, Nick couldn't stick for very long. I can't remember
Yeah.
connection or something. So the second time, hopefully, it's the charm. We don't need a third one to be, All right. So let's start with something positive and something. We have 97 trailer as well as the release date. So what do you guys
Hell
think?
yes. I am so ready. I want it. I've already locked that day down on July 1st. I don't care what's happening. I'm waking up at 3 a.m. if I have to watch that. I don't care. 2 years, I'm ready.
Yeah, they up at 2 years, Jack. Isn't that insane? Like we waited so long for this, and for me, the trailer was everything I had hoped. Guys, didn't it feel like a spectacle? Like music, so it felt like an event. Like it felt like a legit.
Yes.
I think they're very confident with the season. Every Apocalypse is one of my probably top 5 in Marvel, and it looks very Esteban already. I'm so excited. I really am. I can't wait.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm to see, the debacle and the delay of the season because of the changes. But it looks so, to me, it looks good. It seems like they're visiting the eras we know or we saw they will visit with the original show or the original pitch, I mean. So I'm excited, and with confirmation that season 4 isn't. So that's awesome.
I know.
Yeah, I have some theories about, it fuels a theory that I currently have. If you guys want, okay, can I share it, or do you want to talk about something else in the trailer first?
Oh yeah, share it. Fire away, man.
Okay, so and taking how the first season. My new theory is that season 2, it's going to set up sort of an Avengers versus style event. It's going to do that. I know we kind of speculated on that before. I think I have a different idea of how it's going out. We saw in the last 3 episodes of season 1, we saw Jean reconnect with the Phoenix Force. And that proved instrumental in depowering Sinister, helping the team triumph over Bastion. I think that first connection, that's like the Phoenix. I think the way season 2 is playing out. You see her, Cyclops and young Cable in the future. We see her you see her kind of experiencing the family that she almost thought she'd lost. And because of that, I think when the time comes to confront Apocalypse, we saw that gathering in that final part of the trailer. I think the end game for this is again to stop Apocalypse, possibly free whoever the Horsemen are, including Gambit. But because of the power of the Phoenix, she's either going to leave Earth or do things that's going to contain. That's going to end up in one of those Phoenix eggs. But because of that power, it's going to set up season 2 in a way where the Avengers take notice, the Shield, other people on Earth are going to notice. Says, look, this is too dangerous. We have to contain her. We have to do something. Of course, the X-Men aren't going to let that happen. Cyclops isn't going to let that happen. Wolverine sure as hell ain't going to let that happen. It's going to lead to a big clash in season 3 between the Avengers and the X-Men, because we already saw the Avengers exist. We saw glimpses of them in season 1. I think season 2 is going to take another step towards a clash, season 3 is going to culminate in a Avengers versus X-Men style clash. That's my theory.
That sounds awesome.
Wow, that's quite a theory.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know.
No, that sounds cool.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, it sounds.
And I like that you go towards Avengers versus X-Men because, look, as a fanboy, that's really what I want to see. I'm not gonna lie, and we can trust that the showrunner will keep it in the vision of the X-Men the whole time. And they've already done the groundwork of giving us little shots at Daredevil, I think Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, the Fantastic Four, like all there. And in my opinion, they're ready to be used. Put them in a story episode. Give us a little taste, maybe for little disdain that we've already seen with Rogue and Captain America. Maybe pivot on that a little harder. Next thing you know, season 4, it's AVX in the eyes of the X-Men. I'm super down for that. 100%. I love it, dude. That got me fired up.
I agree. Yeah, I think that was the that put them on a path to Avengers versus X-Men, and I don't think it's gonna. It's just gonna. At some point, they're gonna have to clash, especially a Thunderbolt Raw. So it's not like they don't have other reasons to the X.
Red Hulk is gonna be unleashed.
That's gonna happen. I'd love to see that.
Speaking of Red Hulk, do you have anything else to say?
I do have a few other notes. And it seems to be taking. I think I saw the same article you did about season 4 being confirmed. They mentioned Polaris is going to have a larger role, and probably because she did show up in the original series. I remember that, but she was just Iceman's former love interest, and other than that, she didn't really get a chance to then just be a part of X Factor. So interesting to know what's going to happen with her, because I don't know that she's Magneto's daughter. I don't know how much of a role it's going to play with. So, first, what do you guys think is going of the lead of X Factor? Yeah,
Nick.
I would love to see her take the lead of X Factor. How much time they're going to have for this stuff? It looks like she's going to get subplot going on, because we know that all of the rest of the mutants are, running around. Besides, who's it? Forge and Bishop. We know that they're going to have a subplot tied into bringing back the X-Men. So a lot going on. I really trust the showrunners to make it seamless and not confusing, because when time travel involved, it needs to be done right, especially on a show like this. I mean, we even have Rama. Like that.
Yeah,
was like,
I'm surprised.
Yeah, me too. Throw him in there. Why the hell not? Like, I love it. For me, it's a matter of, yes, what are the subplots consisting of? Because, we're going to see some X-Men in the past, the future, and the far future, it looks like. So I'm pretty excited for that. And I just really want to see them all culminate at least 3 episodes left. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree with that, but.
Yeah, for me, I'm excited to see. I know that season 2 has changed, so I don't know how much of it would have now compared to the original series. But from the original pitch, because I got to ask Bo DeMayo on Twitter and he responded, I know that he wanted to focus on Polaris a lot. Like, he was like, her's got a lot of focus in the MCU as well as the Fox universe, so I wanted to give her time to shine on the show.
I like that idea. I mean, the only time she really got a chance to do anything was in the that short-lived X-Men show that they canceled. Yeah, The Gifted. Shame too. I really like the show, but I think her leading X Factor. When I have new sense, I think someone is going to try to prevent the X-Men from coming back to the present. And someone knows what Forge and Bishop are trying. The idea is if they keep the X-Men in time displaced, they can, because I remember we mention Graydon running for president at the end of the final episode.
I think they did, yes.
Yeah. So someone like the Friends of Humanity might make a comeback, and they're gonna, and if they are somehow back in power, that will complicate any time travel efforts. So
Yeah.
that's my thought.
Or maybe it's
Yeah.
Apocalypse, you
Yeah.
know. I don't yes.
Go ahead, Mike.
No. I was going to say yes. I agree, and I said since the X-Men are away on their side quests that obviously I want to have, significant visions of and watch all that go down. I think this gives some other characters time to breathe,
Mhm.
which is great because we can kind of world build a little more, which I really would have seen last. I would have liked to seen last season, but last season was perfect, so I really can't complain about anything. But I do think that opens the door for us to at least see some other mutants, gain a perspective. We know we're going to see others. So I'm pretty happy about that. My question to you guys specifically, do you think, I want yes or no out of both of you, do you think Gambit's going to, this season, come back to life with time travel shenanigans?
Nope. Yes and no. So yes, he's coming back. No, Jack.
I think yes, but it won't be till like the last episode.
Yeah, I think so too,
Maybe
Jack.
before that, maybe after that. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we know that the Horsemen of Apocalypse are gonna be huge, and we even saw Wolverine with his adamantium clothes back. So
Yeah.
we know that in the comics when he became a Horseman. So
Yes.
there is that. There is also something I wanted to mention, which happened same story in which Wolverine got his adamantium back, was just that Apocalypse during the aftermath of the Ages of Apocalypse, or was it which Cyclops merged with Apocalypse?
That was the 12th.
The 12th. Thank you. Around that time, I started to mess with time travel and alternate reality. It trapped the X-Men in different timelines. But they were more of like House of M timelines and less like different timelines. But I can see the show flipping it into them being in different timelines for real, like adaptation point, like a difference between adaptation and the comics. So, what do you guys think?
It's like something. I just want to know what would his end game other than getting his horse, as if going to be death. It's very likely Wolverine is going to be war. That's how he's going to get his adamantium back. Another curious thing in that same trailer, we got this tiny glimpse of Colossus over magic. So perhaps maybe magic pestilence.
Yep.
And that would mean.
I'm not sure. You know, I think that they might be within Magic's storyline. Maybe the other parts that they left out of Inferno in the first.
What about you, Nick? Got any theories?
Yeah, I think that's a nice, a really good question of who Pestilence would be. I'm curious to see who them. I really hope it's not like Jubilee or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. What was I going to say? I think what I'm excited for, me being just a Marvel Comics fan, is I think one of the subplots is going to be Rama Tut versus Apocalypse, and I think the X-Men are going to be put into a pickle. We're going to have to choose a side, and probably to make it more interesting, they'll choose Apocalypse's side for whatever reason. But I'm very excited to see that because I think that's a bomb. I would love to see that in live action. So the fact they're doing it in this cartoon universe is even better. I have high hope. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I don't know if you guys have thoughts or excitement around that, but I'm down for that.
Okay.
Yeah, or something interesting that the show might tackle or might leave out because of how things unfolded in season one, and that's the paradox that exists between Cable, Apocalypse, and that. So, in Apocalypse's origins, we know that Cable travels back in time. He Apocalypse to discover the celestial equipment. And in turn, because Cable loses his arms in the past, that's how the techno-organic virus, which in turn, decades later or centuries later, infects baby Nathan with it. Apocalypse discovered the techno-organic virus, and decades later, that's how he got Nathan infected with it. There was a bootstrap paradox in there. I'm not sure that they will touch on that since Sinister the techno-organic virus, but maybe Apocalypse introduced Sinister to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and of course, when we're dealing with time travel and Cable, is involved with that, and he was involved heavily in the origins of Apocalypse. So, excited to see how they would twist that.
Yeah. To be personally honest, I'm surprised they kept Rama Tut in this. Everything that happened with Kang the Conqueror in the MCU and everything happened with Jonathan Majors, that Marvel Studios would want any links to him to be, removed or cut off. No, it's kind of hard to do, given that in the comics, at least, Ramatut is a very figure in terms of the origins of Apocalypse. I mean, he's the reason why N7 lips. And maybe they're going to try to ignore the Kang reference as much as possible. Maybe something they had to tweak. But I am glad they're keeping Ramatut. I think that because he's important to his origin to leave out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, yeah, what are you going to say, Nick?
I don't mean to talk over you on us. I was just agreeing. I agree with you, Jack. I was a little surprised by that too. It crossed my mind, but also, I don't know, man. I'm thinking maybe they're just gonna ride out and just kind of like be fine with it moving forward in Marvel, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe side of things. I don't think it's like this huge black mark anymore. I think it's less on the character and just on the actor.
Actors.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's wishful thinking on my
Good
end.
point.
I don't know if you agree or not. Very interesting point, Jack. I agree across my mind, but
Yeah.
if I had to guess, they're just kind of going to ignore that and just be okay with the character moving forward. I don't know. Maybe wishful thinking. What do you think on us?
Yeah. So first of all, I got to remind you guys that we saw the Quantumania post-credit scene. He was the main guy in the council. But what I have to say is that I think that his issues, like Kang's MCU, are the reason why we were able to get him in the show. So if you remember, with season 1, Wolverine didn't have much to do, and Deadpool was not allowed to be in the show, Cassandra Nova, because they were being used by Marvel Studios. So and Marvel reportedly had issues with the show using characters that they are gonna use in the MCU. But right now, since Kang is out of the MCU, at least for the time being, I think that he was open back in the market for X-Men 97, and that's why they got him back.
Good point. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Do you think there are other characters who might be available that the MCU's not planning to use them? Like, what about, think Cassandra Nova could show?
I'm not sure, because what I like, as we were talking about Aaron, I can't remember her name, the actor who played Cassandra Nova.
Aaron Moore.
Yeah, she just came out and said that she would love to have a spin-off Nova and Professor Xavier's, story and all of their stuff. So I'm not sure whether the MCU was done with Cassandra or not, especially introducing X-Men. And we know that Deadpool and Wolverine dealt with the multiverse, so all of them are different versions. So we can easily still see Cassandra Nova in the proper MCU.
Okay, makes sense. What do you think, Ned?
Maybe an unpopular opinion there, but it's just not for me. But I believe in the showrunners. Just while this kind of gears a little bit here, while we're still on Evan, I have a question for both of you. This is really, I think it's either this season or next is Bo DeMayo's last time will be on this. We definitely have him to thank for season. But are you guys a little? I don't know. I don't want to use the word are you guys a little interested to see how the show succeeds without his fingerprints on seasons? Where do you think it'll decline? It'll be fine. What are your thoughts?
May I speak? So
Go ahead.
yeah, sure, thank you. We know that the late for a year because canceled everything both, and they redid everything after it was already done. Season 2 was done when season 1 was airing. So what we will see right now is Red Wonderbound's baby. So to me, on how everything will go moving forward with Marvel, Marvel specials, Marvel TV, as well as Marvel Comics, since he is in charge of all right now, and that's his baby. So that's what I think.
Well, I do have concerns, and not just because of Bo's off-screen issues. But my concern is primarily how Winterbomb handled the last season, because what I saw from there was up a little. When I watched the film about Bo, he cares. He knows these characters. Every scene, every line, every arc count. I imagine it was not pleasant working under someone that. But with Brad Winterbomb, when I saw with the last season of What If was lazy. I saw someone who basically said, let's just get it done, to hell with the details. This is just someone who says, I don't care about the quality, let's just get it out, or people will still watch it. And that is something that's good. Maybe there's more going on with the last season of What If I know about, but I think if Winterbaum's take on X-Men, if it's something, if it's, let's say they water down the message, because let's say they make it less like a if they make it less a X-Men show, then I think if you that's just ignoring what the X-Men stand for. And I think the big issue, the biggest would be if Winterbaum starts ignoring the soap opera elements that were prominent in the first season, or if he takes away some of those, like some of the more social, like the social commentary that things like Magneto said. I think that's going to be a sign that Winterbaum is basically listening to Disney executives, and my concern. So,
Yeah, I don't think that this will happen, especially because do X-Men and reportedly they want to do them the way they were done in the comics. So how
elements like the social commentary elements and some of these sensitive political elements that were in season one. I worry that he's going to try to water the show down in a way that where it doesn't feel like an X-Men show. It just feels like another superhero show. And if they try to take out the soap opera elements, if they try to take away some of their elements, like the subplot with Rogue and Magneto, if they try to gloss over anything going on with Cyclops and Jean Grey, if they takes that away, then that's a big missing component to X-Men, because the soap opera element is part of why it's so popular.
Yeah, I agree. And that's
the MCU wants to replicate what worked with the Fox movies as well as the first season of X-Men 97 for Doomsday and everything coming to the X-Men, and not just, season 1 of 97 and season 2. So I don't think we're gonna lose it. I think that we'll just see maybe a shift of tone. For me, that's fine as long as we get something good. But yeah, we'll see about that.
I'm expecting a tonal shift, but it's just a matter of how it's going to be shifted. Yeah.
In the time we have left, since within a few, like half an hour, but that's enough time to talk about the next topic.
Go ahead.
So there has been a topic online that I want to talk to you about it. It's for a while, and it's the fact that some people are talking about DC not having enough, diverse characters out there, or not launching any comics with any leads except white leads and recently they announced that they are planning to boycott any products given like DC Comics and whatnot. Met with a huge backlash between like retailers, between who are talking about how while there are no characters, no black characters are leading comics in current DC continuity, about 20 different creative comics, and how they're gonna lose jobs or like be affected negatively by vision, and like the whole thing just fell down within a few hours after being announced. And I want to like hear your thoughts on that. So Nick, why don't you go?
Yeah, I think
I'm also I try usually to stay out of what there's. I've been alive long enough to know there's a right and a wrong way to do a boycott. And when your approach is to loudly say social media, on YouTube, or through some other media, that we are boycotting this, we are boycotting this, that's a sign that's kind of a red flag to me. Because if for a boycott to work, it needs to be organized. It shows up in sales. It shows up in terms of how much money someone is getting. I remember some local blitz in my area. This was many during back when same-sex marriage was still.
Where do you live?
Laraville, east coast of the United States. What happened made it position clear, and it was not popular. just didn't go. They didn't say loudly. They didn't try to get it media. They said, look, you're going to be like this, fine. We're not going to bother. And at the very, and if you're going to, if a boycott means boycotting, in fact, yelling that I'm boycotting something is actually good advertising, because if you make a lot of noise, that's kind of a, that's kind of like someone's going on here, even if they had no opinion of it. And in this day and age with social media, that's I think it's counterproductive. Maybe like it's just there's more to it. I know. I'm sure that DC, if they could have a series with a black lead, if they could have like a Mr. Terrific series that sold 100,000 copies every issue, they would be ecstatic. But that's just not happening. Maybe
right, exactly.
Yeah, maybe let's say they give us an absolute Terrific, and that series sells 150,000 copies in the first 9 printings. You know what? Then that's the problem immediately solves itself. But boy, yelling at the top of your lungs because DC isn't doing this, well, that's like me boycotting a grocery store because they stopped my favorite brand. That makes no sense. And if I'm loud about it, that's just going to generate the wrong headline. So I don't know if that's a fair comparison, but that's just my take.
Yep. For me, what I think is that, like, wrong from the beginning because they didn't think what they want to do. Because let's break it down to the simplest form. Why do we say that representation matters? Do we care about representation? That's the simple point, like, on which all of the arguments, representation, and all of the topics. And it's simple. It's the fact that we care about the real people, and we care about their, them getting good lives, them getting everything they deserve as human people, as human beings. And, they shouldn't be treated as animals or anything less than it's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And what boycott has not realized basically is that they care more about fictional characters than the creators. And like that's been why it felt like I'm already like this boycott was launched 2 days ago, and already it's failing, because I've seen a lot of people talk about Jamel Campbell. He is doing Zidana, like he did a Zatanna miniseries that was so successful that DC made it into an ongoing, and he's a black man writing and illustrating the comic book. And the people want to boycott that comic because they care about Jon Stewart, the fictional character that represents someone more than they care about the real black man. That technically Jon Stewart presentation tool as a fictional character presenting him should exist to make this guy Campbell and everyone have better lives, because people have these guys are regular human beings. So
that's
ironic.
To
me why it failed. Yeah,
that's
to me why. Yep. That's the reason it failed. Sorry. Yep.
Go ahead.
No. Yeah, just to cut in really quick on us on your point before we move on to another point of this. But you for Fair
Lang, and they were really behind in terms of sales, but they are not. They are currently the top selling publisher in all of comics right now, and and by a considerable margin. So to complain about this now, I mean, that's like complaining a team after they win a championship. It makes
and saying, oh, well, we need both color, even though they actually have the championship, saying, oh, on this. So, man.
Since we're into something, a couple of years ago, there was when they launched Green Lantern under Jeremy Adams, launched this second ongoing for Jon Stewart called Green Lantern War Journal by Philip Kennedy Johnson. And it was launched as an ongoing. Now, when it was announced, Johnson went on one of the Lantern podcasts, if it was the podcast of Oa or Lanterncast, but it was one of those two. And he said that DC is planning this as an ongoing, but he cannot stay on it on for personal reasons. And afterwards, like at that time when War Journal ended, people like a lot of creators were done with their titles, and DC gave the successful titles other creators while they canceled ones that didn't sell. And one of them that got canceled was War Journal, despite how good it is, because you got Philip Kennedy Johnson and Mantis on art, doing the art and the book. and everything was going well for the book, creatively speaking, but it didn't sell. Before it, the Jeff Thorne run on Green Lantern, and it was the main Green Lantern book, it was canceled at 12 issues. Keep in mind that the run before that one was canceled at issue 50.
That's quite a drop
Wow.
off. And yeah.
Yeah, and even like if you go like, let's take Green Lantern's history really quickly. Like the last 25 years, Jeff Jones' run went for 50 issues. Robert Venditti's run under Jeff's and Robert Venditti's run during 50 issues. Venditti's run in the Rebirth era, 50. Jeff Thorne run with John Stewart as its star, 12 issues.
Yeah, well, to be fair, DC had that was a time for DC, so I feel there were other circumstances, but yeah, 52 in the had momentum that kind of petered out in the early 2020s, and it's only recently kind of researched, thanks mostly to Absolute.
But even the main line is doing it. Like right now, the run, Jeff Thorne run is the Jeremy Adams run. We're in issue 37. We have like what until 52 solicited or something like that. So like, and you know what? I know people take the wrong lessons from that, and they say that Stewart doesn't. Yes and no. The issue is that yes, he doesn't sell, and that's a problem. Is like the no here is that he's not a bad character. People take that didn't sell is a bad character. He's not. He's a character with rich history, with a lot of fans. But the thing is that people who say that they love them, they don't actually go and vote with their. That's the issue here. Why the books get canceled. It's not because you know this guy is black or this guy is white or this or that. You know, Green Arrow, a white guy, a B-list seller, maybe A-list if you want to debate it, but like his book was canceled at issue 30. It was selling well enough at the time of the cancellation of War Journal, shifted creators from what's his name, Joshua Williamson to Chris Condon. Done with Chris Condon. Green Arrow, a white guy. Another character that debuted in the Superman movie, and he's a white guy. His ongoing lasted for 6 issues, and that's Mr. not Mr. Miracle. What's his name? Metamorpho.
Metamorpho, yeah.
Yeah, Al Ewing. So the issue here is that apologize, like I understand as a fan when I see that my favorite character doesn't get enough spotlight because you know he didn't sell, but I also understand the fact that these corporations like and these IPs they exist to sell for business, and if they don't work, then it's done. You know that's the real issue. Like I can't defend the Jean Grey series because it was canceled because it didn't sell well. Love Jean Grey to death. You know that's the thing that everyone should understand, and it's not about you know black, female, etc. It's businesses don't get that. You know.
Yeah.
For instance, about The Boys, the last time on the show, and I'm watching The Boys series right now. Everyone knows that Jeff Bezos is a right-wing nut.
Yes, he is,
and he's a capitalist, like a capitalist. But you know what? When the money was presented to him, Boys show, a show about how they hate corporate world and you know corruption and right-wing nuts. He produced the show for 5 seasons and gave it spin-offs. Why? Because
money doesn't care about your agenda. It's just money.
Yes.
That's why it all comes down to money. So I was just going to add to that. Another thing that I think back characters like Jon Stewart, Mr. Terrific, or some of those other characters is when people try to, when any writer tries to them, they're kind of at the mercy of what the circumstances are and whether it's or Marvel. And sometimes those circumstances make it hard to, you know, go on a vision. Like when you look at the vision Jeff Johns had at the start of Lantern Run in the new, that was a vision that had a long game to it. It factored, it kind of fit into the situation within the New 52. Same thing happened with Rebirth. The circumstances was right, vision was, and it carried for 50-ish. To Marvel, Ben Percy, I know we have mixed feelings about Ben Percy, but clearly had Wolverine that he saw through to 50 issues during his run.
100
and
X-Force.
Yes, and longer for Count X-Force. Thank you for the. But the one is that has been putting that kind of vision into someone like Art or someone like Mr. Terrific. Now, they had a chance to do that with Mr. Terrific after he kind of stole the show in the Superman movie, but I just don't think anyone was able to come up with something that would within the comics. So sometimes it's kind of like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. It's kind of like it's like being in the place at the right time. And we think X-Men came along in 1963, right at the time of the Civil Rights Movement. That was perfect, right place, right time. Superman, 1938, just around before World War II, right time. Same thing with Wonder Woman in the 40s. And also, you should say Carol Danvers before what happened in Avengers 200, but she came about in the 70s. That's where she became really popular. So it's a matter of being right, having a creative vision that's right. And I don't think any writer, regardless of whether male, female, black, white, anything, they just have not been able to have a right vision for some character like Jon Stewart or anything like that. That's just my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't force a vision.
Yeah.
How character for when you for a long time, everyone who loves not Mr. Miracle, Mr. Terrific, why do they love him? Because they on JSA by Jeff Johns, in which he was written for almost 150 issues by Jeff Johns, and he was written well. Where is he right now? They put him on Justice League and removed him from its A book because reportedly or statistically, Justice League should sell better, but Justice League hasn't been that good. I don't know if we lost touch with people or happened to him, but it's just like the issue is that the spotlight Mr. Terrific should have had. He got it, but also the quality of the book, good book in which he was supposed to be in, which is JSA by Jenner, he's not in it because, for better or worse, even if the JLA is so bad, still sell better than JSA,
Yeah. It's I don't want to say some of that is circumstance. I won't say it's a really good choice, but yeah, I can see why it's sort of like it's that it just it just kind of it affects the character. It requires like publishers to take a chance and name like a Jeff Johns or a Jonathan Hickman. They're willing to take that chance.
Yep. Like people bring up Nubia, the Queen of the Amazon, and Wonder Woman characters. The only time we saw a black Wonder Woman or like make some headlines was when Brian Michael Bendis was writing Justice League. Now, Brian Michael Bendis' Justice League was a controversial run. So Brian Michael Bendis, as of late, is a controversial figure, but it's still Michael Bendis. That's why it took the spotlight. Missing here. You need to put someone with a direction on these, And even Jeff Johns couldn't do a lot with Jon Stewart because he was asked to put John in the book because of cartoon at the time and the synergy, but he didn't have plans for him. That's why Jon Stewart was not really fleshed out until the New 52 came around.
Missed opportunity. I loved the Justice League cartoon.
I think that, also the synergy at that point, there were characters. One was an architect with some, like when he was created, he was about the civil rights movement and everything, but versus the guy who is about the military and, 9/11, Afghanistan, all of that stuff, Those were two different versions of the character, almost two different characters at that time. And one of the reasons that Jon Stewart is negatively impacted. But you know what? Guy Gardner. Gardner was aimless and even right now, like he had this Mr. Terrific and everything. Where is he? He's in GLC with Jon Stewart, but does he have his ongoing? No. Why? Because Gardner can never hold his own ongoing.
Yeah, that's the reality.
Yep. Like when they tried ongoing, really good. So let's Lantern. Hopefully Nick will get to it when he continues the Jeff Johns run. Like we've been planning for 30 years, but like it didn't last that long, because sales were not there.
Yeah. I think it just needs another opportunity at some point. And as of the absolute universe, DC will be willing to take more chances with characters like a Jon Stewart or a Guy Gardner. or Mr. Terrific. But again, they got to find someone who's willing to at least have a 50 vision or maybe given 20 at the least. Not Al. I was no say names, man. I know how you feel about Al Ewing, but I'm just thinking, come on, someone. I know fan fiction writers who write 100-chapter stories, certain characters. I know I used to be guys. I've written bad fan fiction. I once wrote fiction that had over, what is it, 200, 150 chapters to it. If I can do it, DC has.
Well, you did that.
Yeah. I still.
Okay, that means you did a great. That's fanfic. But preliminary point, Jack. Marvel, see, like, all right, look, we're going to give you a vision. We have a budget for runway on this that we think this is what we're aiming for. Like, here we are. Go build Edrigan into a household. Be awesome. Or and so it goes back, unfortunately, fortunately, but because this is a business. A lot of people forget that. I know that these people comics.
Also, that missed opportunity, and I also think that death of Chadwick Boseman. I think Marvel got a little afraid to do anything too bold with him, and that's kind of. I mean, I don't want to derail this Ultimate universe, but it does kind of feel like that might be why Ultimate Black Panther felt so sterile. Like they played it way too safe, and for that, I think if you want a capital character being a big deal, whether it's in the MCU or a TV show, you gotta, take some chances, have some more vision. I mean, we saw what happened when the movies were big hits. The comics responded. They changed the entire uniforms of the X-Men for a while with Frank Quietly's design. And I mean, say what you will about those dooms. They kind of struck while the iron was hot during that era, and I don't see that same effort with what Black Panther. Don't see that same effort with Jon Stewart, given how big a deal he was in the Justice League cartoon. So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe some fan fighters have better ideas than I would, but there's like a missing or they're willing to take because it involves risk, and very risk averse these days.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And so I know we wanted to stay longer, guys, but Nick is at work, so his break
Nick.
His break is almost done. So final thought before you leave us, Nick.
I guess if I just have on a good note of what we're talking about right now, moment with everything, is that all I can say is that if you really look, you need to buy it.
Yeah.
You need to buy. You need to have your friends buy it too. Okay. The more people that buy a series, you're talking to a publisher, East Comics, who will listen to you if you guys buy them. Saw it with Poison Ivy. We already saw it with Absolute Catwoman, which people. I think people forget she's half black, half Brazilian. So buy the book, and it'll go to 20+ issues.
The problem solves itself.
Yeah, the problem solves itself. So I'll be telling you, I'll be buying Absolute Catwoman. I can't wait for that series. I feel like I am pushing it.
This show, I don't know if before, but this show was started by me. Like originally, it was gonna be a spin-off of Geekable. Goes out on the Geekable, like Spotify as well as YouTube. But then he was like, "No, do it yourself to support you," and he has been supporting me since the beginning. So here's two more crossovers, man.
Cheers. Cheers.
I will see you guys soon. Always.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, with that, see.
Oh, by the way,
before I talk about
before we get to Witchblade, I do. Did you see the You have opinions about Fox, but he'd do this interview with AIPT about the X-Men 97 season 2 tie-in comic, which is like a pre. Want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure, let's do it.
Because I'm looking at a tie-in comic during the first season, and really, in a sense that he did actually chance this season. He knows what happened, so it's not like he's getting this blind. So one of the things that let me see if I this section. He did talk a little about what's gonna about the what the situation, and I don't think that his tie-in comic much. Just I'm hoping that what this does is it sets up what's background of what's happening. One thing I'm very interested in with at least with one of the subplots is are Xavier and Magneto, how are they going to try it hasn't become Apocalypse yet? Are they going to try to we're going to try to make him, not as dark route that he went? Is Magneto going to push him in another direction? Because if the fact that they're in the past means they're going to affect the future, and how are they going to pop in that way? So I would love this series to sort of set that up, because we know from whenever Magneto and Xavier, they can work together, influence people very differently. So what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm just have any
Mhm.
idea to go because as we discussed before, they are taking elements from the comics, but they are going differently, and I'm excited to see how things go. And we know from the trailer that Rogue this season will be all gambit. I mean,
Yeah.
morning gambit. This could go wrong
Mhm.
or well depending on how they write it, but
Yeah.
I trust the people behind the show. Other than
Yeah.
like I know newspaper for Wonderbaum, but everyone
Mhm.
else I kind of trust. The original creators of the original series, and other people, the higher ups who want
Mhm.
X-Men 97 to succeed as well as it did for the first
Yes.
season. So see how it goes.
Yeah.
You know,
And yeah, and
yep.
about the other reason I brought up the Steve Fox interview is um he says this: I'm revealing my participation bias here for Krakoa in some shape or form. That's a direct quote.
Yep.
And my if I in my perfect world, this whatever seasons X-Men 97 on, that final season will end party on Krakoa at the end of House and Powers. I felt like the perfect series finale, in my opinion. Maybe it would be. It's not. It can't happen like we saw in the comic. Maybe it's going to have to go a different route. But that's my ideal finale. Just full cards on the table.
Yep. I'm not sure how much this would work since Bo DeMeus did take that scenery in episode 5, and he said that he was influenced by House and Powers. They
Yeah.
deliberately added that party in Genosha to
Yeah.
signify that. But we never, as we said with adaptation, we never know how many times they can take plot elements from a certain story and insert it in
Hmm.
another, because
Hmm.
they will never adapt everything to the fullest. So
Of
even like
course.
as we said with Inferno, they adapted the Madeline element, but the magic element is
Yeah.
still on the table to be adapted.
Yeah.
So
Maybe. Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's a possibility. So yeah, we can move on to which
Sure. No
I
worries.
won't. I don't want to derail us again.
No worries. So for Witchblade, I've read all the 3 issues. I
Yep.
stopped to watch The Boys. When I'm done with The Boys, I'll be back
Mhm.
reading
Okay.
Witchblade. And on it, like, I enjoy it. I think that I'm a little confused about line things weird a bit.
Yeah, the timeline did sort of spiral after about issue. Um, it's been a while long since I've read that, but some of the developments with Jake.
Yes, that his girlfriend died. It
Yeah,
was with Sari killed Sarah's father. Like,
yeah,
and afterwards, Sari is still here. Weird, like things are weird.
yeah,
I'm loving the comic, but everything's weird.
yes, yeah. And I think one of the good things that makes that made that era work so well, it didn't hide from the melodrama. That's that. I mean, I think that was some of the influence of that. X-Men was so big in the '90s, and was a big part of why it sold so well. And it really shows in Witchblade, because um, Sarah Pazzini as a character and she influences everyone in bad ways, often to extremes. And the way she influences Jake in particular is Jake is in the first run, he is a good soul. He's someone who wants to do right, but is kind of dense. And he will make the right decision, but understand the full story, because he's often like he doesn't know what Sarah's involved in. beyond a certain point. And, it's, you feel for the, but, and Sarah, you can tell she does try to do her best, but she is short-sighted. She does not think sometimes I'm more than one step ahead. Um, and that's part of why you love her, but it's at the same, it's been kind of stumbling about. It's why it's fun, but it's also kind of frustrating when you, yeah.
I know from our friends that the one Mars run, like, is will everything will be sorted out, everything will be explained and streamlined. So, and I'm excited to continue reading because everything I've read so far, other than the fact that at some points you feel completely confused by the timeline, like,
Yeah.
makes sense and it's fun to see. And of course, Witchblade art, 90s and early 2000s art, you get a lot of cheesecake.
Yeah.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly. And but that cheesecake was a good selling point. And
It's
when
still
they tried to take it out in the 2017 reboot, failed miserably. Like, first issue was like, nope, ain't working. To hell with it. So I'm glad that they got back with the reboot.
Yeah, the reboot, like the writer of the reboot, I'm sorry, I'm linking on her name. I think
Margaret
she
Bennett.
hates that. Yep. I think she hates that, but she understands that this is what sells. And like she commenting on that in the new run, like how Sarah's body is not her own, it's a commodity and whatnot. Like I feel like this is basically her commenting on that fact, She doesn't like it, but she has to do it because it sells.
Well, the thing is, it fits the theme of Witchblade. So the fact that it kind of what the Witchblade does to its user, it works. I mean, attitude or not.
Like I think that, as we were talking about everything, the new one definitely has a lot of the original run's elements. It's just that I don't want to say it like that, but it feels like it's an adaptation of the like it's taken all of the elements. Sometimes, twisting things that readers know. Other times, just streamlining them or making them more modern.
Yeah,
like the whole plot about Sari being the person that killed Sarah. This to some extent because I thought that he was a corrupt person, but the way to the way to subvert people's expectation when it came to that plot was to know he is actually a good cop, and just Sarah thought that this was a thing based on something that doesn't exist, which is, of course, commentary on there's who knew the history of the original one, of course. Yeah. So I'm enjoying the series. To know where I and any get there, but that's fun. Also, I'm watching The Boys right now, as I said earlier.
What season are you on?
I'm on episode 6. Now I got through it within a week. I don't know how I got that patience, especially with work, to do that, but I've got here and I'm enjoying it. I think that I can see some hiccup.
Yeah.
But to me, they are like they are all about the idea. Show just lost focus on personal development and characters and started to focus on Tabby. And I feel like this, like comparing the universe, like it's definitely not comparable. Like this show is still a good show.
Yeah.
It's just lost the side of the characters and focus plot more. As the CW's dips are dips in quality all over the place. Plots, visuals, everything. Like so.
That Amazon money definitely went to good use. Especially with I'm guessing you saw the Hero Gat.
Yep. I feel like, the issue with Amazon is that they act that much on this. And we know that from Invincible as well. The idea is that they focus like 90% of the budget on the actors and keep the rest to the show. So like, it's not really that comes to creating the show itself.
That's fair.
Yeah, Invincible has 4 artists.
Yeah.
Because they came out and talked about it. Only 4. What? More than 90% is spent on, you got J.K. Simmons voicing Omni-Man and like head artists.
Seth Rogen. Yeah.
Yep. Everyone is voicing characters and all of them are, make a couple of million doing a season, And
Yeah.
that's the right time that I don't know. Sometimes Amazon not misplay. They have to, deal with how to manage the costs. If
Yeah.
it worked for the book, I can tell, but for Invincible, like it's becoming a bit inhumane. Four guys
Yeah.
doing the seasons. Like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
You can hire at least a couple of more guys. And pay these guys more, so at least they feel that they're doing something.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're getting into both. I don't know if you'll ever have time to go through the comics, but those comics are the show really does diverge heavily from the comics of ways, so that it's pretty jarring when you read the comics and compare it to the show. Because I've said that in previous streams, the comics really were products of their time. Like early 2000s, they were you even if you didn't know what year they were published, probably
You
guess
know.
and be very accurate because and comics it's not that they couldn't work today, they at all.
I think that
So
from what I know, that's what the show did. It just took the core elements and everything and made them, the litmus paper of their own time. Because let's face it, this is so heavy in 2019 to 2026 political commentary to the point that 20 years from now, it's gonna, like, people are gonna look at it the same way you look at the comics now.
that's true. That's what happens with some comics age better than others. The Boys has not aged really well. The comic.
I think it will age well. It's just that people will still know when it was published.
Yeah.
Like, as I said, I'm in season 4. We're talking about Roe v. Wade. We're talking about, COVID.
Yeah, you can tell. Yeah. They definitely did not. They weren't subtle. Again, the Boys reason as a concept has never been subtle. So I like to think that they channeled the spirit as well, along with more so than the story.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. What did you think of the endings of the characters? Oh, every internet, but what did you think of it now that, I understand everything better? We can discuss this.
I think what they did with Homelander was perfectly appropriate. A minority viewpoint, but Homelander of the comics is it does not have the depth in the show. Like one of the things about what they did with Homelander in the show was they fleshed out his backstory a bit more. They gave him some more personality because he's pretty shallow in the comics, but in the show you can kind of understand the way he is. You can understand, why he's so detached and why he's so messed up because of, he basically was a test tube. He was raised in a lab. And if you know anything about the tie-in, he is not perfect. And he's not, but at the same time, he take problems and he doesn't confront them. He chooses to essentially do the exit of what any human being would do regardless of superpowers. And he does things that he knows are wrong. Even when he does things that are horrible, as the show goes on, you're at the point where he's essentially he's trying to care. He's given up, like hiding how awful he is. And I think by doing that, it makes the fact that when he in the end alert, that does make it more satisfying. That does make it feel like, hey, this guy did all these horrible things. He thinks he's a god. He's developed this horrible god complex. Now they take away his godlike power, and he is just pathetic. And that's not just that's poetic mixed justice after what Butcher does to him.
Yeah. I think, this, while I agree with it, highlights the issue I have, which is the fact that there are a lot of personal issues. We can explore a lot of drama and good stuff out of it that we just don't like. We have, for instance, let's look at season 2. We have this person in Rebecca Butcher who was raped by Homelander, because of her son's powers. She killed him, and later on, she, of course, like, as a human would do, she loved her son, and there is a folk that to that, but they never explored, which is the fact that she is focused her son the right way to not become homeless.
Yeah.
Because
And it
while,
showed.
yeah, as a victim of Homelander herself, she understands, he was like that because of how he was raised. We don't know how much she knows about Vought, but she definitely knows enough,
Yeah,
spending
she knows
years
enough.
with them. So,
Yeah.
like, there is some drama that you can get out of this, that she loves, but also she hates the father for right reasons.
For completely understandable reasons.
Yep. And yet, she's raising the son, keeping in mind that, she, I'm trying to not be like, to not choose the wrong, but Homelander, in a sense, she understands that he was not born a villain.
Yeah.
And, that, of course, conflicts with how he tortured her.
Yeah.
There was some good drama that could have been done
Yeah.
with that. And of course, that issue, it doesn't just apply to Becca, it applies to
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
You kept teasing that, Butcher, who has father issues by his father, is gonna be a better person, or
He's
at least
not.
a better father.
Yeah.
He's not, but you got this sense of, he wants to be a better father and he tries to, but you
Yeah.
never really explored to the point
Yeah.
that, I think, if you did that, you would give his ending more meaning. He wants to kill the Soups and ends up dying. Like, you can still have the same show, like, plot wise, but you can deeper
Yeah.
make it, fit well, because, the way the show left it, it kind of feels empty to me. How, okay, Butcher is like, everyone hates Butcher, that's it, but that wasn't really. And
Yeah.
you see that deep down, everyone loved Butcher. They're not gonna say it, and
Yeah.
because of the
Butcher's not
hit,
a touchy-feely. Yeah.
yeah,
Butcher's not really a touchy-feely guy.
yeah, because of that they keep hinting, showing. I think that the show felt empty because of that, with almost every other character. I think that he really cases that really well when how his trauma kind of goes away. His panic attacks just
Yeah.
stop happening at some point. Of course, like, happen, but you don't see them.
Yeah. And that's a good point about Butcher, and it's into his connection with Homelander, because when I look at character Butcher, Homelander, you see both of them are not stable human beings. They both have serious problems, to put it mildly. The difference is Butcher all this awful stuff, and he channels it into doing something that he thinks needs something that is not entirely selfish. Some of it is selfish, but not entirely. Homelander, on the other hand, he goes in the opposite direction. Being born in a lab was not pleasant. Being like a product by was not pleasant. But he could have chosen to. He had many throughout the course of the show to choose not to be that way. But every choice he makes, especially by season 4, he's just more and more selfish, more and more broken, and just more and more sadistic. It's kind of like both of those characters kind of become sort of like an anti-hero. The other one just becomes a full-blooded psycho villain who is simply the embodiment of narcissism and selfishness, who would not be a hero if give them every opportunity, because they just, on some levels, wants to essentially prevent what happened to Becca from happening to anyone else. And that kind of is where the hero comes in. Now, how he goes about it, even his own son later tells him, "You're not a great guy," but he understands that. The difference with Butcher is he chooses to take this broken part of him, do something meaningful with it. Homelander takes this and chooses to embrace every bit of self-indulgence he can up to the pro. And that makes that's why the ending is satisfying, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's that part, I think, works.
Yeah. I think, as we were talking about that, the plotter that kind of bothered me, the boss, that it was not the parenthood issue, because the show keeps reminding us that he didn't have children with even early on. becoming Billy Butcher, the killer,
Mhm.
was the fact that he is traumatized and he
Yeah.
doesn't think that he'll be a good parent. And when you see him like with Ryan early on before like he started away,
Yeah.
you see that Butcher is changing, and you never really got to see more
Mhm.
of that to understand that that irony in there prevented himself from having children with the woman that he loved because of
Mhm.
a fear that didn't exist, or
Yeah.
something, the fear of something that didn't exist, more accurately.
Yeah, that's
So
fair.
like that's something that could, as I said, it could uh, hit more harder. Everything. The
Mhm.
issue that you needed to explore the characters a lot more, so that when you end the show the way you ended,
Mhm.
you just make everything more impactful to the viewer.
Yeah, that's
As
fair.
for yeah, as for Homelander, I know from digging. Of course, try to get to the boys comics at some point. I just have to be the blade first.
Mhm.
As far as I know, the issue is that or merge them together because in the comics they were
Yeah.
basically clones of one another, and a lot
Yes.
of the Homelander plots in the show were actually uh Black Noir's plots. The idea that
Yes.
he raped Beck Butcher, that was Black Noir's plots.
Yeah, that was a
Yep.
bit. That was why it was such a big twist, and I had a feeling that the show was not going to be able to capture that because it was just too. It'd have taken way too elaborate a setup, and I don't think it could have worked long term. But that part of the comic reframed a lot of what made Homelander so unstable. Because now suddenly you got to deal with these things, and he was just gassing. He did, then how evil is he actually? Well, we know saw what he did with some of the things he did when he took over the White House, but it kind of blurs his whereas the show essentially they duplicated as they kind of kept it simple, like he's falling into spiral of selfish narcissism, and that worked better given, especially given Anthony Starr's acting, the way
Yep.
he portrayed Homelander. I think it would have devalued his acting skills if they tried the Black Noir twist.
Yep. I think that they did like what up is that more of Merce in the show, and that's why Black Noir in the show is almost
Mhm.
non-existent because he's just a skin because all of his
Yeah.
plots went to Homelander, and I think
Hmm.
that they still kept that Homelander manipulated but and gaslit, but different extent. Like, as we were talking before, I was watching season 4, episode 5, the episode in which he revisits the lab and kills everyone
Yeah.
there. And one of the things stated by Barbara, the person who was in charge of the lab, was what got psychologists to manipulate the child in order for
Hmm.
him to always crave love, crave attention, crave selfishness. Like
Yeah, that's
that
dangerous.
selfishness. Everything we see about Homelander was like not self-inflicted, was inflicted on him by those psychologists, so that even when he is the
Hmm.
most powerful person in the world, he can still be controlled by the people who want to control him.
Yeah.
So while
Yeah.
the show wasn't more or Madeline Prioring
Hmm.
situation, it definitely kept the main point like here, but also kept it in a way that what manipulated it still wrong. Just
Yeah,
because
exactly.
he grew up terribly, he still raped people. He still killed. You know, that's the idea behind Hitler wasn't born evil, but he is evil. He became
Yeah.
so, and it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what made him so. He just became so.
Exactly. Yeah, that is unfortunately that's something that plays out in the real world. Some people monsters aren't born, they're made. And someone like one thing that's kind of tragic about Homelander is even after he finds out that this is what they wanted to do to you. This he finds out no, they this is how they try to control you. He finds all this out, and his recourse is to basically become even worse. Like the more power he gets, the more he breaks free of Vought's control, just the is. And that's not on Vault, that's on him. And you'll see this in season 5, how far he takes it. And he could have, there's so many different opportunities. He could have become a kind of character. He could have really become a different kind of. He could have become more like Magneto. But instead he just went full, and he has no one to blame for.
I think he is actually watching the episode. I was reminded, yeah, it's just that we have seen Magneto redeemed so many times that people forget that Homelander are similar. And you know what reminded me of that? Seeing the gas chamber
Yeah.
in the show, like that, like I don't know how at that point Magneto at some point was just Homelander, especially like between early 60s and the 90s, like omitting, of course, the period in which Claremont wrote him as the, the headmaster and everything. But yeah,
Yeah.
and
The-
you're gonna
the
say something?
Yeah, sorry. The difference is Magneto, he still chooses to do good things, and he still chooses to be selfless at times in the name of other people. Like, he will do whatever it takes to protect, like, his people. Homelander, he doesn't have people. He has himself and no one else. That's just
Yep.
kind of that's why he kind of went the wrong direction, to say the least.
It's about how technically, if the boat happened the way it did, exactly with no changing it in the universe,
Yeah.
we would call Homelander Magneto and we would call Butcher the front. If you think
That's
about
kind
it,
of a good point. Yeah, that's a
it
good point.
is really the same point.
Yeah.
Where it takes from a different standpoint, in which we didn't redeem Homelander, and Billy Butcher believed in superheroes up until he saw footage of Ping as the one person he loves,
Yeah. Yeah, and that is pretty yeah. That's an interesting thought, because in some respects Butcher would find a place, a role in the Marvel universe, but it would not be as a hero. He would not be
Punisher.
Avengers. Yeah, I think even the Punisher wouldn't like him. I
Yeah,
think
the
Frank
Punisher
Castle would
wouldn't
have
like
problems
him
with.
because he is the Punisher. You know how you don't like yourself.
Yeah,
So like
but even
Punisher and
more
Butcher
so,
are the
yeah.
same guy. So they will
Yeah.
definitely together. And
No,
you
yeah.
can see that to an extent with Marvel. Marvel and Butcher are the same character. That's why
Yeah.
they understand
Yeah.
each other. Never really, they are brothers. They can't stand each other. Especially like with season 5. Yep.
Yeah. How you see how they get to that end, because it's quite especially for Homelander. And I'm actually going to be working my YouTube channel where I talk a little bit about how fans have come to see Homelander, and why the finale was controversial for some. Yeah, that video is still in the works. I don't think it's going to be out for another. But I do want to touch a bit on Homelander in a future video. I'm probably going to do another video about X7 as it gets close to the release. Not sure, but yeah. But what do you want about the boys?
I think that really quickly. I think that it was somehow both overdeveloped and underdeveloped. They developed
Yeah.
the art side of thing and the commentary on how the world works with the
Yeah.
digital age, but they actually didn't give him enough time as a person who, gaslights people because he doesn't like his own body, but at the same time,
Yeah.
he raped people and he's a rape victim.
Yeah.
It was
The Deep isn't. Yeah. The Deep isn't work in the show, especially when compared to his comic counterpart. But there are times when you feel sympathy for him, but then there are times you remember he's not a nice guy. He's very needy. He's so needy, even more so than Homelander at times, and that makes him funny. I got to admit. So he had some of the funniest moments of the show. Given what he does to that need, in a hilarious way, though.
Yep, I think that there is nothing settling than every word that exists can describe that moment. It's when, like, right after he admits that he raped Starlight, he goes to that motel that they sent him to, and the next thing he does is brings a lady, like, to have fun with her, and all of a sudden she wants to play with, and it starts to become
Yes,
rape.
I remember that
I'm like,
scene. He Taste of his own
Like,
medicine. Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
a real, like,
Yeah.
like, he's a walking paradox, and you could have done
Yeah.
something with him. Of course, as we said, they never really touch on stuff a lot. They just focus on the plots. And for the deep,
Yeah.
it was just, humor me deep, be the Deadpool of the show.
Yeah. And needier Deadpool. I can't, it's strange to think of someone pool, but yeah, the Deep is definitely, he's definitely that, which is, yeah, I won't say he was, I won't say he stole the episodes where he was the best part. Those episode you just mentioned, that was,
Yep.
I think that was one of the best moments with the Deep. But yeah, he was one interesting character to follow up into, and uh, I don't think he was he deserved as worse as Homeland in the end, and I think he got it at the very least. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that he got it. It's just that, as I said, you wanted a little more.
yeah,
That's all I
yeah,
can say. And
yep,
at some point he became the Amber Heard controversies because
yeah,
how it was tied to Aquaman.
yeah. That was an
Yeah.
interesting connection. So yeah,
Yep. I
uh,
mean, when he said that his wife bumped in his bed, I'm like, okay, you can't hide it. You
where
can't
that
hide it.
came from. We know
Yep.
where that came from. Like the thing is, the boys, the comic played a big part happening in the news at the time. So of course, I think the show did a good job of saying, okay, what's in the news now? Get in, and I think they did a decent job. Sometimes it didn't work as well as it should have. I think they understood the assignment more so than most.
Yep, absolutely. So I think we're done for now.
The only thing well, I mentioned the video. Um, One of the things I haven't quite figured out, even after seeing soap opera elements, are they going to explore in this? I mean, last season we had Cyclops, Jean, and Madeline. We had Forge and Storm. There was Xavier for a while. I'm trying to think about how they're going to continue things in. They didn't really tease a whole lot in the trailer. I mean, I think maybe they did pull out Iceman. Makes me wonder: are they going to reveal? Are they going to do the same thing they did in the comics and reveal, or are they going to oh yeah, how are they going to develop that? Plus, how that Storm and Forge are separation going to pan out. I mean, that's something that I'm not sure how how the video make is if that's going to explore.
Sure.
Do you have any thoughts?
I really think that they are gonna so we were mentioning with the boys how plot is can be the same, but things that this is what's gonna happen with X-Men 97. The main ideas of Bo will stay the same pitch, but everything else will change when it comes to how they handle it. So we're
Okay.
gonna definitely continue like the Summers family drama with Gene
Yeah.
Cable and Scott, and
Yeah.
to some extent we'll continue the identity crisis Jean a bit.
Yeah.
She is not Madeline, but she is Madeline. She is
Yeah.
Nate's mother. But yeah, you're gonna continue that. You're gonna continue the Magneto
Yeah.
thing. It was
Yeah.
by the mid of the last season, it was fully like changed, and I think that gonna continue to be that
Hmm.
different tone. Like, okay, Magneto loves her, but she's in love with someone who's not really bad an eye seeing Magneto. You
Yeah.
know, so I think that we will continue seeing the same idea. Just
Yeah.
will they be handled? I think that's what's gonna be different.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And going back to Bo, I remember Bo saying Emma Frost
Yep.
during season one, but we only saw this tiny glimpse of Frost, and what kind of role do you think she's going to play? Is she going to do like the Gen X route she had when she was with Banshee? You think they're going to try something like that?
Probably. I think that, as we mentioned, the show and adaptations in general take plots that repeat themselves multiple times in the comics and merge them. And
Okay.
that seems what's gonna be happening with Emma. So we're taking taking the Heli from the 80s, we're taking the
Yeah.
new X-Men from the mid 2000s, and we're
Okay.
throwing them in the show. Like, as we've seen, we have Kid Omega, we have Monet, we have who else?
Yeah.
Like, we have different kids from those different
Okay.
teams, and so we are definitely going Gen X with it.
Okay.
And I love that. As we've discussed before, that's when Emma shines the most.
I
And I
agree.
think that, that's who Emma has always been. Like, people forget that Emma from change.
No.
The situation then changed based on the fact that, she was running a different or a different section of the Xavier Institute
Yeah.
to running the main school with Cyclops, you
Yeah.
know. But, we know that Hera and Cyclops are not a thing, you know, just higher mandates. Marvel is not interested in seeing Scott and Emma.
Mm-hmm.
So when you remove that, what else remains? What has always been consistent about
Yeah.
Emma Frost years, which is the fact that
Yeah.
she's a teacher.
Yeah. I think, that I would love to see, the Gen X route. I thought would bring in more of the younger team, because didn't Jubilee in the comics join M at one point? I don't remember when it was. I think
Yeah,
she
Gen
did.
X. I believe was in Gen X.
Okay. Okay. Maybe, that seems like a good connection. And the thing, I'm not
Kitty
sure, are
Pryde.
they,
You can introduce Kitty Pryde.
yeah,
They will use her
that's a,
as well.
I was kind of going to leading into that, but same wavelength there. I
Yep.
really do want Kitty Pryde to come comfortable for him, because they did mention her in that, again, on that board. I'd like to see Kitty Pryde sort of show up. Maybe she could be Emma's star double, and I would love to see that idea play out. Sure, there is what's going to happen with, because he really didn't get a chance to do adamantium ripped out.
Yeah. That was
I
because
know
of the
if
movie.
they're going to. I know we talked about him becoming. So makes me wonder what his arc is going to be. Because the reason I'm up is because when I met Cal Odd at Comic-Con last year, mentioned that he had been recording lines for season 3, and he said, I'm going to reveal too much by share. There is a Wolverine centered episode in season 3. Get into details, but he did kind of mention that is something that will happen down the line. So, I don't want to make too much of that, but dreams at some point have him cross paths with X-23 or Laura, like they did in the movies, and to see some sort of that family arc that will go on starting in the early 2000s. That would be good for him, and it would kind of feel like an extension of, Jubilee kind of softened him a little,
Yep.
compared went over the course of the original show, and found out Laura existed. If finds out maybe he has a son like Dakin, bring out that would be a good arc for him, because right now, other than getting his, I think there's an opportunity to do something meaningful with him that does Jean Grey for 5 seasons.
I think that they can do that, especially like this show or the behind the scenes have been like taken into consideration the success of X-Men Evolution as well. For Hale was Jean Grey in X-Men Evolution, which led her
No, she
to be
wasn't.
Jean. And
No,
she
she
wasn't
wasn't. No, she was in. Jennifer Hale was Jean Grey and Wolverine in the X-Men.
in the X-Men. So yeah, like no worries. So my point still stands. The idea is that they're looking at the different iterations of X-Men in animation, and they are
Yeah.
they are looking to expand on that. So maybe they like Laura that long ago, and have her
Daphne
voice
Keene?
the new version.
Oh, not Daphne Keene.
Yeah,
That might be too high profile.
she's definitely too high profile.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 23 has had like multiple actresses. She was there was some different voice actress who played her in the Marvel versus Capcom game.
Yeah.
And so that'd be I would love to see that arc. I don't know what happened with Storm. One of my dreams, another scenario I've asked is, if we're going to see who's going to be the Horseman of Apocalypse, who do you the Phoenix 5 in X-Men 97? Is that something we want to entertain?
I don't know. I think they can find a way to make it works. It doesn't have to end the same way. As we were talking about, adaptations can change things, so they can be the same 5 characters, but things can go differently. Because there is no relationship between and Emma. There wouldn't be a problem that have Scott go Dark Phoenix.
Yeah.
Colossus and everything can be different. The 5 same 5 people in the comics who bonded with the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there could definitely, there's there are many ways to go, but yeah, I do think that soap element is going to be critical success of the for seasons it goes on. Um, I don't know how much I know there's still, even when I go on about Rogue, Gambit, and Magneto, but based on what I've done from talking to Lenore Zana, what she has said over the social media, she seems to imply that Gambit and Rogue are the end game. They are
Yep.
eventually going there, and I think it's gonna, when the series is, they're gonna of this season or the next season. But that is something I think Ed and Rogue and Gambit either getting married at some point, like they are in the comics right now, and for like what that means for someone like Mag, hard to say, because does not take rejection has historically very well.
I don't know. Something I would think would happen would be that Gambit becoming the Horseman of Death would some be able to touch Rogue. That could be
That would be big.
a
Yeah.
route.
Yeah.
It would be something that they can use, especially considering the whole Gambit situation being the death happened in Peter Milligan and Mike Carey's runs.
Mhm.
And Mike Carey's run was heavy on the love triangle as well as finally being able to touch people.
Yeah. Yeah, that was also the arc where it had Mystique try to get him
That was
away from Rogue.
Yeah, the Peter Milligan one, but more
Yeah.
I love Mike Carey sections.
Yeah.
That was when Rogue started to touch regular people, and she was not
Yeah.
stuck with Magneto, like, because he's the only one
Yeah.
she can touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had options finally,
Yeah.
and that would be an interesting turn. I'm sure I would love for that to be sort of in the upcoming season, and where it leads, hard to say. But eventually, this is heading towards a form or another.
Maybe
And I think that would tie
change.
into Avengers Doomsday too, because maybe, but it would it would be a big what sort of the Marvel animated universe, sort of like what we saw in the
Yeah.
Spider-Man cartoon. So who knows?
Yeah.
We'll
I
have to
think,
wait and see. But the wait is over for season.
Absolutely. I think, the way I think that it could but couldn't go is related to that. We know that the original pitch had Avengers versus X-Men, but they can't do it anymore because it was gonna happen in some extent. But now that Doomsday is gonna out before X-Men 97 season 3, maybe that will change. They can
Maybe.
later on. It's related to the whole Deadpool Ramadan situation, and Deadpool is in season 2. I mean, it's more as Deadpool, but still, they couldn't have that in season 1. Like, I think someone asked Bo about season 1 what more turned into Deadpool, and he said that was not allowed.
Yeah, I understand that too. That was like they wanted to keep dead focused on they want to look for the upcoming movie. So it's maybe with Doomsday. I mean, if it doesn't lead to Avengers versus X-Men, it might be some sort of trilogy type event along in the interim. So we've seen that they are willing to condense into a few episodes like they did with Inferno. I don't see why they couldn't do that with House of M or to set up Avengers versus X-Men.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see. Speaking of that, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think we touched on pretty much everything. We got the boys. We've got 97 is course at front and center. I can't think of too much else in terms of coming out with comics, because I haven't got much news on DNX or the I know Absolute have it later this year, and we didn't get much news about the Midnight Universe, other than some preview art that didn't reveal much. But other than that, I think I think we'll.
All right. So with that, guys, I'm gonna wrap this one up next.
All right.
Have fun. Bye bye.